Hi, welcome back to Sewing with Pflug. Today I'm going to show you how to sew your mask together. So instead of designing the front of mine like you guys did, I have a piece of fabric here that has a good side and a back. So I'm going to use the good side as the part that you've designed. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two pieces of fabric. The good side that I want to see is going to be facing in. So I'm going to actually sew it inside out. So I'm going to pin this together. So I'm going to take some pins and put the pin in and push it up. And the pin point always goes towards the edge that I am going to sew. So I don't need too many pins in this because it's a pretty small piece. So I'm going to put 4 on this side, pins pointing outward, and then I'm going to put 4 on the other side. So I turned it around. So I always pin outward, and you want to make sure that you get the pin to go all the way through so it goes through both pieces of fabric. So the purpose of it is to hold them together. And you try and get them as even as you can. Okay, here it is. Okay, so there we go. I have my pins pointing outward towards the edge I'm going to sew, and my fabric, the good side, is on the inside. Okay, you can see that this is a little lighter, so that's the back. All right, so next we're going to look at the sewing machine. Okay, so here, let's get my pointer. Okay, so this is the foot of the sewing machine. Around the back of the machine, if I reach my hand, there's a lever that makes that go up and down. This is my needle. I have 2 threads, one coming from the bottom and one coming from the top of the machine. Okay, they join together. We'll talk about that later. Okay. Also, on my computer screen, because this I have the number 1. There's a button here that if I change it, the arrow goes up or the arrow goes down. That tells me that when it's down, the needle is going to stop in the down position every time. Okay, and I'll show you what that means. Okay, let me get my pedal. So watch the needle. Hopefully we can see this. See the best angle. And when I push the pedal, the needle stops down. Okay, that's going to work really well when we turn a corner. So that's why I have it set in the down position. If you have a sewing machine at home that does not have needle down as an option, that's okay. You can always turn the big knob on the side of the sewing machine, which I'm going to do to take it out of the fabric. You can also turn it to put the needle down into the fabric. Okay. All right. So if my needle ends up stopping in the up position on a machine that you have at home, then we can always turn that knob. Okay. So I'm going to put an X on this. I don't know if we're going to be able to see that because that's the area between this pin and this pin where I'm not going to sew because I'm going to turn this right side out. Right now I'm sewing this inside out. Okay, so we're going to go back to the sewing machine and I'm going to put my fabric in so that I'm on this side of where that X is. And I'm going to sew a few stitches forward. And then I'm going to hold my reverse button in. It looks like a hook with an arrow in the end. I'm going to sew a few backwards. I'm trying to keep the foot of my sewing machine even with the edge of the fabric when I sew. I know this light is a little bright, so it might be a little hard to see this. So I'm going to sew along the edge. And then when I get to the corner, I'm going to lift my foot and I'm going to turn my So I'm going to line that up with the edge of the fabric, and I'm going to push the foot pedal so that I sew. And this machine will always stop the way I have it set with the needle in the down position. So now I'm going to lift, and I'm going to turn, and I'm going to sew. The harder you push on the pedal, the faster the machine is going to go. Now watch, I'm just going to hop right over that pin, so I don't have to worry about taking them out. 9 times out of 10, you do not hit a pin. Okay, so now I'm going to lift it again, and I'm going to turn. My fabric wasn't lined up there, so I'm getting that, just compensating for that. Okay, so we don't actually push it. Watch, I'm going to let go, and it's still going to take it. I'm skewing. I'm keeping it straight as I'm sewing. Now I lift and turn. I'm almost at the other side. And when you sew, you're going to just go at your pace and what you feel comfortable. If you feel like you can go a little faster, then that's what you do. If you want to go slowly, you go slowly. Okay, I turn one more time. And right here is where I'm going to stop because that's where that other line is at the beginning of that second pin. So when I get there, I stop, I hold my reverse in, and I back up a few stitches. Now, I need to turn this on the side of the sewing machine out of the fabric. I lift my foot, and I pull it out. This machine also has a called cutter, so I can bring those two over, cut them off. Pull it long and put it to the back. If you don't pull it long, sometimes the needle comes out. So the thread comes out of the sewing needle. So now I'm going to take all my pins out. And I'm going to cut the threads off, the extra long threads, so that they're not in my way. And before I turn it inside out, I like to cut the corner off of this so that it's not in the way when I turn this. Okay, so I'm careful not to cut the thread that I just sewed, but I want to cut off all those 4 corners. Okay, now I'm ready to turn it right side out. I have another thread here. Hang on. Okay, so now I'm ready to turn this right side out. So I'm just going to kind of push it through the hole. Okay, and you just have to work it until you get it out. And then I like to take a pencil and put it in the opening and kind of push that up into the points of the corners to give you a good corner. See that? And then turn it over to the other side and kind of poke at it till you get your corners nice and straight. If you don't cut those little edges off, the little point off, then it doesn't get as nice of a corner. Okay, so now I'm going to push this down and I'm going to push this down. Okay, so here's our mask at this point. We still have a hole here, so we're going to kind of push that in so that it's flat and kind of finger press that so it stays. Now, when you guys do this, you can use the iron. I'm not going to get up and go to the ironing board, but I'm just going to kind of work with it. But you can see how it's like kind of fat looking, fluffy. So we want it to lay flat. So we're going to do what's called a top stitch on this. So I'm going to bring it back down and I'm going to start right where that opening is to get that closed first. And again, I'm going to sew a little closer to the edge. So I'm going to sew a few forward, a few back, and now I'm going to continue across. So what this top stitching is going to do is it's going to kind of keep it flatter, and I'm going to lift my foot and turn just like I did before. You can use a color of thread that you like, or you can use one that is the same so you don't see it. It's up to you. But I like to do this because it kind of holds it together and keeps it flat. And for each corner, same thing I'm doing. I am cutting, sewing, and turning my corner So I'm pivoting on that needle that's down, going a little faster because I kind of already went around once. Okay. Okay, one more turn, and I'm right here at the beginning. So I'm going to reverse again when I get there. Okay, so I'm going to reverse now, and I am done with that. Turn the big knob on the side of the sewing machine, lift my foot, pull it out, take it to the thread cutter. Pull my threads long. Okay, now I have to cut these off, and now I'm going to put on the piece that holds in your ear. Okay, so what I am using is I'm using a piece of t-shirt material, and I think that that works really well because it has some stretch and it's nice and soft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold one edge back about the distance of that first seam that I made. So I'm going to kind of use that on the edge. And then I'm going to put this in underneath there. Okay, so it's kind of folding that down and I'm sticking that in there. And then I fold it down. And then I'm going to take a pin and help hold that in place. And then I'm going to take the other end and put it in the other side, fold it down on it, and again, put another pin. Okay, I'm also going to do the other side. So same thing, I'm going to fold that down, take the end of my little t-shirt piece, kind of stick it in there. Some people use hair ties and uh, elastic, but I like this t-shirt because it's nice and soft. I don't like when the masks hurt my ears. Okay, so I'm going to bring it around, stick it in the other side, put a pin in. Okay, so now I have this on both sides, and I just have to make sure that this is out of the way when I sew it. So I'm going to come back, start on one edge, make sure that that's out of the way, sew a few stitches forward, sew a few back, holding my reverse button. Now I'm going to sew all the way across, and again I can just hop right over those pins as long as I have them straight like that. I'm going to come all the way to the end, and then I'm going to reverse again. Now I can take it out. Pull it out, cut, and I'm going to sew the other side quickly. Flip it around, same thing. Sew a few forward, reverse it, sew all the way across, and reverse it. Okay, I'm going to take this pins out and trim the threads, and then I'm going to show you how to finish this. All right, couple more. Okay, now with this particular mask, it actually has a little, bend at the top that fits your face nicely, and it also has one at the bottom. So we're going to put that in right now. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to fold the mask in half backwards, inside out. And we're going to sew a little seam on an angle here, like take off a little triangle and a little triangle down there. So I'm going to draw that on so you can see how that's going to work. And I don't need to pin this. Okay, so I'm going to sew on that line and on this line. And anytime I start, I reverse. Sew a few, reverse, sew all the way across, and reverse. Can take that out and flip it around and do the same thing. Doesn't really matter which side you start on. And reverse. Okay, there we go. Just about done. Okay, so now we are going to cut our threads off, and then I'll show you how to finish it. Okay, so now we have this part that we sewed, and I'm just going to cut that off. But I'm not cutting the threads that I sewed, right? But I'm just cutting off that extra. And I turn it right side out and I push that out. And then we have our first project, our first mask, face mask sewn and ready to go. Okay, so you can see how that kind of brought it in. And I hope you enjoyed this time sewing with Pflug. See you next time.